represented by Republican incumbent Robert Ortt. So good morning, Senator. We've been provided with 4 questions, and we'd like to ask you to begin by addressing the question about budget priorities for next year and how you will support funding for IDD supports.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, all of you, for having me. It's good to see many of you again. I have long supported the work of this organization. When I was chair for 4 years of the Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities Committee in the Senate, it was absolutely one of the great honors of my time in public office to be the chair of that committee. I had no background knowledge of this, and I would encourage every legislator in Albany to be on that committee, because it really does open your eyes to a world that a lot of legislators just don't quite understand. Talking to parents, talking to caregivers, providers, self-advocates, it just opens your eyes to a lot of challenges that I was not aware of. So I want to thank all of you for the work that you do, educating legislators like myself and really making better legislators out of the people we have representing us in Albany. As far as, Jeff, your question about, look at budget priorities, I'm not going to tell you anything all you don't already know. People with developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, they've been fighting to be a priority in the budget for a long time. And next year is going to be a challenge. There's no two ways about it. We don't even know exactly how much of a challenge it's going to be. We don't really know what those numbers are. But I'll tell you what, if you talk about parity with government agencies, I mean, how many government agencies do work that all of your providers do the same work for a fraction of the cost? And yet when it comes time to making cuts, it's always the not-for-profit providers who bear the brunt of that or are told not this year. So I would like to see some parity, and I would like to, we're not going to balance this budget on the backs of folks, you know, the most vulnerable populations in New York. And that not only the individuals who need services, but parents and families as well. And I would add, Jeff, real quickly to that, one thing that I think needs to change quickly is that the governor currently has basically carte blanche budgetary authority. And I have on 2 occasions supported resolutions to restore, normal balance of power to the legislature and the governor. And the reason I think it's important to restore that balance is because as long as the governor has the power that the legislature gave him in this year's budget, he can make these cuts unilaterally. And this is a governor, in my view, who has not always been kind or supportive of this community. And so to give him that kind of authority to make those cuts without input from the legislature, without input from the Senate or the Assembly, which means not without input from all of you, I think that's wrong, and that has to change, and that can change today, but that has to change before we start getting into these tough discussions.
Okay, thank you. Our final question is from Joe Damiano, who is a self-advocate, and he's going to ask you the final question in this session.
Okay, Mr. Ortt, what are your thoughts on people with disabilities being a part of our community, and what do you think can be done to reduce barriers in full participation?
Thanks, Joe, and I want to thank you for saying my last name correctly. So many people say Ott when they don't know me, and it's not hard. It's only 3 letters, O-R-T-T. So I appreciate you saying my name right. Joe, that's a great question, and it's a big question, right? I mean, I wish I had the one answer. The one thing that I've taken as I was alluding to before, to reduce barriers, I think one of the things we have to do more is include, we have so many executive agencies or boards that make decisions at local government level, at the state level, that do not include family members, caregivers, or self-advocates. And I think that's so important because very often those barriers are up there because people don't live it every day like all of you do on some level. So they don't know that they don't even know that a barrier is a barrier sometimes. So it's not always a negative thing. It's that people, they're not aware that, oh, that is a barrier because they're not in a wheelchair. They're not a caregiver. They don't have a child who has Asperger's or significant autism. And so I think the more we can involve people in the decision-making process who are in those situations, I think we'll start to sort of identify, hey, you know what, that's a barrier that needs to be addressed. I think employment is a big deal that I have heard from for years. Employment, the volume of unemployment. Now we're seeing this across, obviously with the pandemic, unemployment's going up. But you know who that's going to affect even more? People with disabilities. Because the unemployment level was already so high in that community, and there's no reason for it. The state can easily rectify that by making sure a certain percentage of contracts go to agencies and organizations and people with disabilities. We should by law anyways, but we don't always follow that law that we set for ourselves. So though I think employment, to me, you give someone a job, you give someone meaning, you give someone purpose, you fix a lot of other ills that exist in any community. So those are two ways I think, Joe, I would address that. And I just want to thank again all of you for the work you do. And Jeff Patterson, who I've known for many, many years. He's a Niagara County guy. He was trying to be impartial when he said he doesn't know where I am. He knows exactly where I am. The sun's shining. I'm in Lockport. He knows that. It doesn't matter if it's December or June. But Jeff, I want to thank you, Barb, DeLong, but all of you I consider friends, and you're doing the Lord's work as far as I'm concerned. So thank you for what you do.
All right, Senate Minority Leader Robert Ortt, thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time. Best of luck.
Thank you, guys.